There's this one leadership habit that is so common, so deeply ingrained in how we manage, we barely even notice we're doing it. But it might just be the very thing that's holding you and your entire team back. So let's just try a little thought experiment. Someone from your team walks up to your desk or pings you on Slack, and they say they're stuck. What is that immediate, gut-level, twitchy impulse you feel? For pretty much all of us, it's to jump right in, right? To fix it, to give them the answer. We want to help, we want to add value, and we think the fastest way to do that is just to give them the advice. But what if that instinct, that default setting of yours, is actually a trap? That's what we're going to explore today. This impulse to rush in with a solution, it actually has a name, and just recognizing it, well, that's the first step to getting out. And this is it, the advice trap. Now look, this doesn't mean giving advice is always bad. Of course not. Sometimes it's exactly what's needed. The trap is when it becomes your only move, your default response to literally every single situation. It's when you are so eager to provide an answer that you leap in before you even really know what the actual problem is. So what's driving this? Well, it's a subconscious force that author Michael Bungay Stanier calls the advice monster. It's that little voice in your head that just lights up and says, "Ooh, my turn. I'm about to add so much value to this conversation." It's really the villain of this whole story, and it's time we meet it properly. The thing is, your advice monster isn't just one single creature. It's a master of disguise. It likes to show up wearing three very distinct and I bet very familiar masks. As I go through these, just see if any of them sound a little too familiar. First up, you've got Tell It. This is the loudest one. This is the monster that believes the only way you can add value is if you have the answer. It loves the spotlight. Then there's Save It. This one's a little sneakier. It's camouflaged as just being helpful, but it's totally convinced that you, and only you, have to rescue every person and every project. And finally, there's Control It. This is the quiet one, the backroom operator, whispering that the only way to succeed is to maintain control over everything at all times. Which one made you wince a little? Underneath all three of those personas, there's a pretty uncomfortable truth. The moment your advice monster takes over the conversation, it's operating from one core belief, that you are better than the other person. You're smarter, you're faster, you're more experienced, and that they, by extension, aren't quite good enough. I know, it's a provocative idea, but it's the hidden engine of the advice trap. So what's the big deal? Why is this a trap we really need to escape? Because the real cost of this default behavior is massive. It creates these dysfunctional patterns that just ripple through your entire team, your entire organization. When you rush to advise, you almost always end up solving the wrong problem, because the first challenge someone brings up is rarely the real challenge. Your constant help also demotivates your team because you're stripping them of their autonomy and their chance to actually master their work. And that, in turn, overwhelms you because you end up doing their job and your own. And ultimately, this whole advice-giving habit keeps everyone stuck and it limits your organization's ability to really change. And this gets to the very heart of what makes people tick. We know that what truly drives people at work are three things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. When you're constantly dishing out the answers, you erode all three of them. Autonomy is gone, they're just following your orders. Mastery is stunted, they never get to learn for themselves. And their sense of purpose just dwindles because they start to feel more like a pair of hands than a contributing mind. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. But the good news is there is an escape plan. But it's not about learning some clever new trick. It's about a fundamental shift in your whole approach, a new way of being. The escape route is paved with curiosity. Think about change in two ways. You've got easy change, which is kind of like downloading a new app on your phone. It's additive. You just bolt on a new skill. But taming your advice monster, that's hard change. That's like installing a whole new operating system on your computer. You can't just add a new tool. You have to rewire your core behaviors. And this new operating system, it runs on one single powerful principle: curiosity. The goal here isn't to never give advice again. It's to build the habit of staying curious just a little bit longer and rushing to give advice a little more slowly. So how do we install this new system? Well, it starts with a simple, practical toolkit. We're not talking about 100 complicated techniques, just 3 powerful questions that can change everything. You start with this: what's on your mind? It is the perfect opening line. It's open enough that it invites them to share what's really important, but it's focused enough to get straight to the point. It cuts through the small talk and signals that this is going to be a useful conversation.
Now this might be the most powerful coaching question on the planet. And what else? Why? Because the first answer somebody gives you is never the only answer, and it's rarely the best answer. Asking "and what else" helps both of you dig deeper to get past all the surface level noise and uncover more options and more of the truth.
So after you've explored a bit with "and what else?", this question brings everything into sharp focus. What's the real challenge here for you? It cuts through the fog of complaints and stories and drama about other people to ask, what is the core issue that you need to solve? This is how you stop solving the wrong problem. And when you put these 3 together, you get a simple, effective sequence. You start with what's on your mind, then you explore by asking, and what else? Maybe do it a couple of times. And finally, you zero in on the main thing by asking, so what's the real challenge here for you? This 3-step process is your pathway out of the advice trap. Using this toolkit isn't just about having better conversations. It's about fundamentally changing how you lead. It's a choice between 2 different leadership identities. On one side, there's present you, who keeps falling into the advice trap. You get that short-term satisfaction of feeling helpful, but you stay stuck, and so does your team. On the other side is future you, who chooses to stay curious. This is the leader who plays the long game, achieving real rewards by empowering everyone around them. And becoming that future you doesn't require some massive personality transplant. It all comes down to one choice, one simple decision made in a single moment, but repeated over and over until it becomes a habit. The choice to ask one more question before you give the answer. So, the next time your team is facing a challenge, what will you do? Will you let your advice monster take the lead? Or will you take a breath, stay curious, and ask the question that unlocks their potential instead? The choice and the opportunity is yours.